All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Sorry I'm a little late getting on here. Is there writing? First question actually, it is really running slow. So let me close some things out here. It just runs super slow if I have hardly anything open. A few more things to close. There we go. Should help quite a bit. All right. So first question is from Paul H. Says, on the downswing, you shallow your swing, and then we are told to rotate our hands in order to close the face of impact in order to hit straight ball. Why not just make a stronger grip before you take the club back as soon as you begin your backswing? So that's a good question. I get that question quite oftentimes because what's going to end up happening most likely is you're going to end up just closing the face at impact. What we really need to be doing is turning the handle by both hands, kind of doing this act. The lead hand is going to be bending forward. So that's wrist flexion, and that's what's called wrist extension, where the wrist is bending back. And what happens is, let's say I take a really strong grip here, and I just say, well, I'm just going to come back to impact like this. Well, what ends up happening is if you're someone who's used to coming into contact like that and you're flipping, what you're going to do is you're going to take that strong grip, and then you're still going to do this motion. You're going to do that lead wrist motion. You're going to turn that handle down, but that trail wrist, you're still going to do this because it feels powerful to push that trail wrist through. And you're going to just shut down the face is all you're going to do. And you're just going to hit really nasty hooks. So while strengthening your grip can help a little bit, it's not just going to fix the problem. It's not as easy as just, oh, I'm just going to change my grip. I wish it worked that way. Trust me, I wish it worked that way. But you actually have to have the hands working through impact in the correct way. You need to be coming into contact with that trail wrist in a bent back position. Whether you are using a strong grip or a weak grip, that trail wrist has to be in a bent back position. Now, is it more bent back for a lead? Is it more bent back for a weak lead wrist or a weak grip? Is it more bent back? Yes, it's way more bent back. For a stronger grip, it's less bent back, but it still needs to be bent back. Pretty much everyone who's struggling with it straight, you're still going to flip no matter what. If your trail hand is flat contact, it needs to be in a bent back position. So while strengthening the grip can make it easier, it's not just the fix. It's not just going to be what's going to. You have to do that wrist motion as you're coming down. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get it. All right. And if you want to work on the best drill to do that, that's going to be the tennis racket drill as well. So I can show you where you can find that. Tennis racket drill. Actually go back to this screen. There we go. And then I'll get this so you can see the whole thing. There we go. So tennis racket drill, the easiest way to get to that would actually be to search it. That's what I'd actually recommend doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to search the words tennis racket in the upper right. Tennis racket. There we go. And then it's going to come up with our search results here. Then you can see, boom, for pure downswing contact, tennis racket drill. That's going to be the best drill to be working on. What I was talking about there was shallowing out the club and turning that handle. That's going to be the best drill for that. So highly recommend that. And that's how you can get to it. All right. Let me go back to my other screen. There we go. Next question is going to be from Russell L. Russell L says, I'm having trouble pitching the ball. My body is stopping. Excuse me. It's ugly. Any drills to promote the proper body movement through a pitch shot? Yes, what I would actually recommend doing is presetting your body open. Here's the reason why we want to have our body square for a normal shot, right? Because if we have our bodies down, what we can do is we can actually preset our body open. So instead of being straight, if I just set up to it just straight up square like this, what I can do is I can actually open up my feet and then preset my body open. That just makes it a heck of a lot easier to swing with my body opening up and everything coming through together. So that's what I'd recommend doing, is trying to feel like preset your body open and try to feel like your belt buckle is staying ahead of the handle, or almost like it's attached to the handle as it's coming through. And that's going to allow you to get really good pitch shots, really solid pitch shots. There's actually a great video on the website that I can show you that I highly recommend. I think it's called How to Get a Tour Level Short Game or something like that. So let's see if we can find that one. Again, the website has a fantastic search engine in it. It works surprisingly good. So if you're ever looking for something specific, what I'd recommend is basically doing that. So search in the upper right hand. Tennis racket was the last one we did. So I'm going to do is I'm going to tour. Now I know what I'm looking for, so it's pretty easy for me to find. But if you were to just look through pitching, for example, or something like that, you'd be able to find it. So tour short is the one that I know. I know the title of the video. So it's develop a tour short. Develop a tour pro short game. That's the video that you want. If you're on a mobile device, there's going to be 3 horizontal lines there in the upper right-hand corner. If you click on that or select that, that will expand a menu. And then if you scroll down the bottom of that, you'll see where the search box is there as well. So this also works on mobile. And as you can see in the thumbnail of the video there, you can see how his feet are opened up. I actually haven't tried this yet. Let me try playing this and see what happens. So you can kind of see exactly what Clay is doing here. I don't know if this will work. Oh, it is kind of working. All right, so you can see he's kind of setting up normal there. Let's see if he does the feet open ones. So he's talking about a lot of the stuff that I just talked about. All right, yeah, so now you can see he's set up square, just like I was talking about. And now see how he's setting up more open. There we go. So that's what you can do. He's kind of exaggerating that. You probably don't need to do it that much, but he's exaggerating it. Set open there, and you can just do it just like that. So let's go ahead and see how he does with this one. Yeah. So you see how open his body is there already? He's preset open. That just makes it a lot easier to do that. So I would go out, practice that a little bit, find the happy medium. You don't have to set up that open, but find the happy medium that works best for you to get that working a little bit better. So I'm not sure how well that played through on your guys' end, but hopefully you were able to see that. This software that I'm using to do the picture-in-picture, it really slows down my computer, or my computer's just not probably powerful enough to handle it. So if it's a little bit choppy, I do apologize. But yeah. Let's get going to the next one. So Ted B says, Dear Q, I purchased the launch monitor, and now I think it's time to consider watching more golf and playing a lot less after my fastest swing speed with my driver was 80 miles per hour. Yikes. How can speed really be that low if I'm carrying the ball 245 consistently off the tee and still and less than I used to? Well, something's got to give there. So either the club head speed was wrong, or you're not really carrying at 245. So I would say to carry the ball 245, you probably need to be swinging. You need to be over 100 miles per hour. I would say to carry at 245, unless you're at high altitude or something like that. But yeah, definitely need to be at about 100 miles per hour to be able to carry it that far. But yeah, I would say it's either, something's got to give there. Either the club head speed measuring device is off, or you're really not swinging, or you're really not carrying the ball 245. If you might be hitting it 245 max at 80 miles per hour, like after rollout and everything, every now and then. If we look at that for 80 miles per hour times 2.6, we'll say that's 200 yards. Let's do 2.7. So it's 216 yards would be like what you're with everything. I mean, to get it to, I would say that club head speed's probably off. I don't know which one you're using, but I would say your club head speed is off. I would just make sure that you're setting it up correctly. I would imagine that you're not swinging 80 miles per hour with your driver. Just to guess, if you're hitting at 245, if you're even hitting at 245, even if it's not carry, even if it's after rollout, you'd have to be swinging probably at least 90. So Robert H says, what is percentage of weight on each foot at address? The videos seem to show mostly on the left side, even during the backswing. Does that position the ball more forward? At address, now, if you think about if you're shifting your weight, a lot of times you'll put a little bit more pressure on the other side. So if you imagine, I'm going to be putting it right here. Even though I'm going that way, right? Even though I'm turning my body to go that way, I'm first going to be putting pressure into my lead foot because I've got to get over there, right? I've got to get over to that side. I can't just go with my trail foot and then start going that way. I've got to go like that. So the same thing's happening in the golf swing. You're going to get right before you start the backswing. And this is not something you have to try to do. It's just something when you're trying to load up on this side, you're going to put a little bit of pressure in this foot to get it going over there first. So that's why they actually measured tour players. They went to, if you're not familiar with what Swing Catalyst is, Swing Catalyst is a pressure mat that has a bunch of sensors in it, and it measures the pressure that you're putting into it with your feet. So if you are standing on it, it's going to measure the amount of pressure. Now at address, they measured a bunch of tour players, and they measured that they were about 55% of their pressure. Their total pressure was in their lead foot, and then 45 was in their trail foot. But that's really just because they're getting a little bit going. That's not, when you're just standing here at address, I'd just be balanced. Because if you tilt, you're not just tilting like that. Your hips kind of go forward, and then you tilt back a little bit. So it's still remaining balanced, right? When I tilt away from the target, I'm not just going off of this hip and I'm like this. My hips go forward a little bit, and then my upper body goes back a little bit. So I'm still pretty balanced here between my feet. So I would just say feel balanced, and then at the start of the swing, like I said, as you're getting ready to load up in your trail side, you're going to put a little bit of pressure in your lead foot. Just like if you were a shortstop and you were getting ready to go field a grounder, you would be putting a little bit of pressure in that direction to go that way. The same thing's happening in the golf swing. You're going to put a little bit of pressure in your lead foot to get pressure going into your trail foot. And Swing Catalyst actually, they actually have a great free education if you're interested. Let me see if I can show you that. I can find it. So you can they have a free education that you can go and learn a lot about what they are and what they do. If you want to go check it out, I can show you. So yeah, it's just swingcatalyst.com. I can show you my screen here. So here's swingcatalyst.com right here. Let's see here. Learn. I think if you go to this Learn tab, you'll find articles, lesson of the week. I don't know if they still have it or not. Yeah, there you go. So you can do the level 1 certification. Yeah, so it's just a video. It's just a seminar. It's all free, and it just tells you about pressure, about their product mainly. It's mainly a deal to sell their product, but it kind of helps you understand the pressures and things that are going on in the swing. So if you got some free time and you want to learn about it, it's pretty cool. They send you a little certificate in your email and everything. I think it has your name on it. It says you're level 1 certified. So if you want to be level 1 certified Swing Catalyst instructor, you can do that. So yeah, check it out. It's pretty cool. It's like a 7-part series, I think. The little. All right. So Janice C says, just watch the video of Clay in which addresses driver ball height. Sorry, it keeps putting this thing in my way. There we go. That's better. Trying it, can you discuss ball position for irons and how it varies, if at all, for different irons? So I don't change my ball position with irons, really. I play almost everything just ahead of the middle of my stance. Basically, any ball that I'm hitting off of the turf, I play just ahead of the middle of my stance for the most part. Now, if you really, really want to keep things simple, like ball position, really, really simple, really minimalistic, any ball that you hit, you can just have 2 ball positions. Any ball that you hit off the turf, you can play just ahead of the middle of your stance. So if you're looking right here, if I have my good spine tilt, that's essentially going to be straight down from my lead ear, puts it just ahead of the middle of my stance. Okay, that's any ball off the turf. That's no matter what club you're hitting, whether it's wedge, short iron, long iron, mid iron, hybrids, fairway woods, anything that you're hitting off of the ground, because that allows you to come down and make ball first contact and hit the ball solid. And then the other position would be something you're hitting off of so woods that you're hitting up off the tee, which would be just outside. So your driver just outside, just on your lead shoulder there. That's going to allow the club to kind of bottom out and work up into the golf ball. Now that's really simple. If you want to make it slightly more complicated, then what you can do is you can move a ball back. So you would have your shots hit off the turf position, which is just ahead of the middle. And then for wedges, here's what I do. For wedges, I put the ball basically in the middle of my stance. That helps me to hit a little bit more down on the golf ball and to have it go a little bit lower. And it helps me I like to hit kind of like a draw a little bit with my wedges because it keeps it lower. It's a little bit easier to control, and it typically is going to have more spin because I'm going to have more compression on it. So that's it, and I get a little bit steeper angle of attack as well, which gives me a little bit more spin. So all of those things are good typically for wedges. So I like to play a ball back for wedges. You don't have to do that. You can play it in the same spot that I talked about a minute ago, but that's what I do for wedges. And then for longer irons, so maybe like a 4-iron, 3-iron, hybrid 3-wood, I'll go a ball forward of that position. So a ball forward of the slightly ahead of the middle, it'd be a ball forward of that. This allows for the opposite effect, right? So it allows me to come in a little bit more shallow, which allows the ball to get up in the air a little bit more. Because a lot of times those clubs, sometimes they're hard to get up in the air, right? So coming in a little bit more shallow instead of hitting more down on it, coming in a little bit more shallow makes it a little bit easier to get that ball up in the air. So that's what I do. But you don't have to do that. You can hit down on those a little bit more, just like you do with your normal irons. But that would be, and then the driver setup would be the same. So that's 4 ball positions. You don't have to really complicate it. I see all the time people, they have a different ball position for every single club. That is way overcomplicating it. Hey, if you're a high level player and you know what that does with your game, but 99.9% of people are not in that area. So I think a lot of people, they read the Ben Hogan book, right? They see the 5 lessons and they saw the diagram where he's closing and opening his stance and he's moving the ball position back and forward for every single club. I mean, he has an incremental ball. Ben Hogan practiced 8 hours a day at least, right? He's a professional golfer, one of the best of all time, right? He would be a high level player that it would make sense for you to do that. But most of us, including myself, do not need to complicate it that much. It's not going to make any kind of difference for me whether I have and honed in like Ben Hogan, or I use the ball, this more simplistic 4 ball positions placement that I have now. And that's really what I recommend for everybody, either the 2 or the 4. That's really, everyone's going to be able to play golf with either, play great golf with either one of those. So even if you are a high level player, it might be better for you just to simplify things a little bit and to focus on things that really matter the most. In ball position, it matters, but if you just do the most important things, right, that's going to fix 95% of it. And that's really the whole kind of idea behind the Top Speed Golf system, is it's going to fix 95% of the issues. If you do the ball positions that I just talked about, it's going to fix 95% of any of your ball position issues. All right, so Elliot C says, confused as of the roll or right arm and left arm in the golf swing for right hand. So if you're looking for crazy detail, I'm not going to be able to go into crazy detail on here, but if you're looking for crazy detail on the roll of those, what I recommend doing is going to our crazy detail vault. And I'll tell you exactly, it's just going to be way better for you to go and watch the video where Clay goes into crazy detail about those things. But again, express to you is that these videos are not for you to go out and practice having the perfect left arm motion throughout the swing or the perfect right arm motion throughout the swing. They're really just educational for you to understand. So if you want to get to the crazy detail vault, what I recommend doing, I'll share my screen here. If you go to the instruction tab, and again, if you're on a mobile device, there's going to be an icon in the upper right-hand corner, 3 horizontal lines. If you click on that, that'll expand the menu where you can find the stuff. But 1 down or 6 1 down, this will bring you to all the vault categories. If you're not familiar with this, this is also like if you're browsing for something, or if you're just bored and want to watch some videos that aren't necessarily in the courses or the system, this is the place to go. So it's all organized here. You can see we got balance and rhythm vault. We got the hooking, blocking, bunkers, consistency, and then we're going to see the crazy detail. So it's all alphabetical order. So you can see B, I guess the blocks, hooks vault, bunkers vault, consistency. Now we have a crazy detail. Now these crazy detail videos, like I said, enter with caution. This, I don't want you to go in here and get analysis by paralysis, because or paralysis by analysis, or whatever you want to call it, because that's what may happen if you go in there. If you go in here and try to focus, because as you can see here, we got right wrist crazy detail. We got head crazy detail. We've got your left arm crazy detail. So there you go. There's the left arm one that you may want to look at. That's this one right here. We have the trail leg. We have the lead leg. We have our shoulders in crazy detail. We have posture in crazy detail. Takeaway, left wrist, another left wrist crazy detail video. So tons and tons and tons of crazy detail videos. So if you want to check those out, this is where you want to go. Elbow motion crazy detail video, right? Like I said, these are not meant for you to go out and practice getting these perfect elbow motions that Clay go, and you work on the Top Speed Golf system. Your arms and your legs and everything, they're going to work in the way that they're supposed to. So that's kind of what we're getting at with the Top Speed Golf system, is that it's really the most important things. If you do all these things in here, everything else is just going to fall in place more easily. I'd rather you work on the one thing that fixes 20 things than one of those one things, right? If you work on having a stable fluid spine, it may fix the way that your arms come into contact. So that's what I'd be looking at. That's what I'd recommend doing. But if you want to find the crazy detail and how different body parts work, if you're curious, whatever it might, this is where you want to go. So crazy detail vault here. All right, so James B says, on my PRGR monitor, I tend to swing significantly slower on slings without a ball. I know Clay touched on this. So I'm the same way. I actually swing slower without a I don't know why it is that I swing slower without a golf ball there. Some people swing faster without a golf ball there. It can go both ways. Some people swing about the same. So it's not something I'd be concerned with. I'd be concerned with what's going on with the golf ball there. That's the most important thing. So, so yeah, I would recommend, hitting something. If you have something available, I'd be recommend doing, or a foam ball. Those are all things. I have these foam balls. I think I got these at a golf tournament. They're just little Callaway brand foam balls. They work just fine. They're great. I hit these in my office all the time. I can smack them around. They don't hurt anything. But it's good to hit at something. So I would recommend hitting at something if you could. But yeah, that's what I recommend doing. The other thing I would recommend doing is making sure that the monitor is set up correctly. That's really the main thing. The easiest way to set up those monitors, the PRGR, is just to take your club and whatever you're kind of hitting at or hitting through where you want to have it. That's going to put it about in the perfect position. I think it's 3.5 feet to 5 feet or something like that is the distance, and your driver is going to be roughly about 4 feet from the end to the end. Even if you have a 45.5 inch driver, which is typically like your stock driver, it's going to be 45.5 from one end of the club to the other end, like the hosel part. So it's going to be 45 from here to there. If you go from there, it's longer, right? So if you take your club and put it behind it, it's going to be about 4 feet, essentially. If you put it just a little bit behind that or in directly behind that, that's going to be the perfect range. So that's what I'd recommend doing. But I recommend swinging at something that's going to be the best. Obviously, the most important thing is with the golf ball there. That's where the speed is the most important, right? But I wish I knew why. I don't know why people swing slower or faster because of that. So Mark H says, how much hinge should there be in the back swing? So I just hinge right away. Going to be picking up the club, and you're not going to get as much of a shoulder turn. But you want to have a full hinge. So your wrist, this would be what's called radial deviation. You can hinge that up about 20 degrees on average. That's about your average human can hinge that up about 20 degrees. So that's how much you want to hinge your wrist. It's maximum. You want to be maximum 20 degrees. Now, what gives the appearance of it hinging more is the club shallowing out. That's part of it. So one is the 20 degrees where I'm getting from my wrist. So if you see, if I have my wrist flat here and I have the club straight up and down and I hinge it toward myself, that's going to be about 20 degrees, right? So now if I take that club and I shallow it out like we do in the golf swing, now look how much sharper that angle looks. This was vertical where I was 20 degrees. Now is the momentum of the club. So when I'm going up to the top and I switch directions, that club has momentum going behind me and it sharpens up this angle. So if I put those together, my 20 degrees of radial deviation, which is thumbs up, and my shallowing of the club and the momentum of the club out, basically. As you get up to the top, you're going to be maxing that hinge out. I would recommend doing it later in the swing, not doing it this much at this. Don't max it out right here for a couple of reasons. Like I said earlier, if you max it out right here, typically you're not going to keep turning your shoulders. If I try to hinge my wrist later, look how much more I'm turning my shoulder. That's super exaggerated, but you can see that I'm really, really exaggerating that, and I'm getting a lot of shoulder turn with no hinge. So if you've ever heard of the statement, someone say wide, narrow, wide, what they're talking about is the path of the club head and the backswing and the downswing and the follow through. So I want to be wide in the backswing. So if you watch the arc of my club head, that's wide. See what's happening with my wrists? My wrists are not hinged, right? So wide, and then I'm going to go narrow because I'm hinging my wrists. And now look at my club was, if you look out here, I'm almost touching the curtain over here, right? As you can see. Now in the downswing, if I go to that same point in the swing where the club's right there, I'm in the middle of my vent. See the difference? From there to there, I'm much narrower. And then in the follow through, I want to be wide again. I want to let everything widen out as I go through. So if you kind of have that feeling, that wide, narrow, wide feeling, you'll be able to get some good hinge, the good timing of the hinge. But you want to be fully hinging those wrists in the swing, in the top of the swing and the beginning of the downswing to get that full amount of lag. All right, so Charles P, says, is there a certain time in the downswing when you lay off and flex your wrist to square the club face? Do you do this on all clubs? So yes, real quickly, you do this on all clubs. Any club that you're wanting to get forward shaft lean and square the club face and compress the ball, which I assume would be pretty much all your clubs, right? Unless you're trying to hit a flop shot or something like that. You're going to be shallowing out the club and squaring that face earlier in the swing. Now, when you square the face, when you start doing that, it doesn't matter. You do what works best for you, but it has to be happening in the transition. So, for instance, like Dustin Johnson, right? So Dustin Johnson, he's going up to the top of the swing. He's got this wrist crazy bowed. Well, he's already, trying to square this face. Well, you can do that as long as you're basically keeping that to a certain extent in the downswing, right? He's going to be losing it a little bit as he's coming down, but he's really bowing that wrist to try and square that face as early as possible. What I think is easiest is to have a flattish wrist at the top and then do that squaring of the face in the downswing, and it would be in the beginning of the downswing, the transition there. But that shallowing, it has to happen at that point. You can't shallow the swing in the backswing, and it doesn't matter if it's not shallowing in the downswing. A lot of times what ends up happening is people shallow the club in the backswing, and then they come down steep. You have to be shallowing out the club. Look at Matt Wolff, right? So Matt Wolff, he brings the club up way steep. He brings the club up like this and then shallows it like crazy in the downswing. So it doesn't matter when you square the face. It just has to be happening in that transition area. Both of them have to be happening in the transition area, but the shallowing of the club can't happen any other time. It has to happen. You can shallow the club in the backswing, but you also have to shallow it in the downswing. It doesn't do you any good to shallow the club in the backswing. It's just going to make you swing flat or too flat, or it may make you come over the top. But that squaring of the face earlier, that twisting of the handle, that can happen in the backswing. That's fine. You can be in the kind of position that Dustin Johnson is in if you're able to, but you have to be. What I find all the time, I've had students that have worked on that, especially when Dustin Johnson was #1 player in the world and he was winning majors, or he won a major, or was competing in majors at the top of the league. I mean, he's still a very, very good golfer, obviously, but when he was kind of peaking, not to saying he's peaked yet, but when he was peaking a few years ago, I had several students that were trying to DJ the wrist, what we would call it was DJing the wrist. Well, what they would do, they'd be in this position at the top where they're DJing their wrist, and then in the downswing, they would just undo it. They would start cupping the wrist in the downswing. So it doesn't matter if you're like this at the top of the swing. If you're just undoing that in the downswing, you basically have to hold it coming down. It's a hard thing to do. So I think it's easier to kind of do it the way that we talk about in the tennis racket drill in the move course, where you go up to the top and you shallow and square in the transition. I think that's the easiest time to do it, and that's the best time to do it. The downswing is just happening too fast to be able to do it. I mean, you can do it in the backswing, but you have to have it in the downswing. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. All right, so Luke F says, I'm just starting the TSG with the stable fluid spine with no driving ranges open. Would you recommend doing the TSG drills as normal with foam golf ball, becoming for the entire system? So what we're doing right now is if you go to the, I think it's up. Let me check. Share my screen here in a second. Yep. All right. So let me share my screen. So if you look here, I'm on the vault category. So the way that you get to this is to just go to, let me see if I can move myself. I can. Okay, cool. I did not know that. All right. So if you go to the instruction tab over here and that'll bring you to the vault categories page, which we're already on. I just wanted to show you how to get there. If you scroll down, you'll find the indoor drills. So what you're going to want to do, Luke, is go in and watch this, this first video here. This indoor, don't do any indoor drills before you watch this. Basically watch that, and then you can go through the system using the what Clay talks about in that video. So keeping impact in mind, doing what's called interleaving practice as you go through there. And we're going to be adding, we just made a bunch of videos to go in with this. So be on the lookout for that soon. We're kind of going through them, making sure they're all good to go and everything. We're in the editing process. But hopefully sometime this week we'll have those up. It'll be a whole thing. So we'll have this video, then we're going to have an introduction video to the rest. We're going to talk about what's important at Impact. And then Clay's going to go into, he's going to do some basically work along videos. So basically where he would work through some things and he would tell you exactly what he's thinking about and what he's working on as he's working through it. So these will be on the longer side, but they'll be basically kind of a work along video where hopefully maybe you're at home with your phone or your laptop or whatever it might be, and you can just open it up and have your mat work along with it, right along with him. So hopefully we're going to be releasing that soon. I don't think he's done any of the work along videos. I think he was talking about shooting those today. So, so yeah, I think that's but we do have the other ones done there, kind of an introduction to it. But watch that video, and that one is going to basically go through how you want to work through essentially anything that you're doing while working on things at home. As you can see from the thumbnail of the video, Clay is on his back patio there with just his mat hitting some foam balls. So you don't even need a mat. You can have a rolled up piece of carpet, your front door rug or whatever it might be. You can use that carpet in your house if it's tough enough, to take a club hitting it every now and then. All those things are things that you can do. All right. So here, Nicholas H says, "Hi guys, hope all's well." Both hands. It's probably with one hand. A lot of times, what happens is you're forced with your body. You're forcing your body to kind of to move because it's hard to stabilize the club with one hand, right? So you're going to use your body more to chip. And a lot of times you can chip better doing that because you let your body and your hand kind of lead the way and get in front of impact. Just like if you go with either hand, again, with the right hand, if I were to just go arm only, it's going to be hard for me to kind of make solid contact doing that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my body here as I'm coming through, and I'm going to keep that handle ahead. So what you can do is you can go left hand only, right hand only, and be mindful when you're doing that of what your body is doing. Be mindful of how your hips are moving, how your knees are moving, how your chest is moving. Be mindful of all of that. And then when you put both hands on the club, now you've got the stability of both hands, and you can add that to how you were moving your body before, and now you can get the best of both worlds, right? You can have lots of control with it. So that's why I'd recommend doing. That's probably what's going on. It's hard to say exactly without seeing what's going on, but I would imagine that's what's going on. So that's what I recommend doing is be mindful, do the one arm swings, be mindful of what you're doing, and then just replicate that same thing when you put both hands on the club and how your body is moving and so on and so forth. All right. So Timothy F says, "Hey Q, do torque seems like they rotate before the start of the downswing. How important is hip speed? Thanks." So yeah, they do. It's a little bit of a lateral shift for sure. It's not a lot. It's not like they're coming down and they're doing that action, right? They're going up, and then the very last part of the backswing, they're starting to shift their weight forward, and then they're using the ground to start rotating their body open. As soon as they get that pressure in that lead leg, they are starting to rotate that body open. So yeah, that's exactly what's going on. If you want to work on that, there's a great drill that Clay posted a while back for working on this hip movement. We can go ahead. Let's go find that, and I'll take you through the process of because I get this question all the time as well. How do I find a video like you guys? This video was like a few weeks ago, and I can't find it. So if you don't know what it's about or what Like I know what's the title of the video is, so I can just search that word and I'll find it very easily. But if you're in a situation where you don't know that, what you can do is you can go to the latest videos here. If you know it was something that was fairly recent, what you can do is you can go to this latest videos and you don't see it here. You maybe it was a little bit further back than March 17th, which I believe it was. What I can do is I can go to see all videos, and that's going to take me to a list of all these videos in pages and pages and pages and pages of it. So if I scroll down through here, I'm not seeing the video. Okay, it's still not seeing it. Okay, so it must be, I'm going to go to, as you can see, there's 112. Every video on the website is on this latest. That little bump forward, it's just going to be a little bit, and then you're going to start using the ground pressure to start rotating the body. Now, as far as hip speed is concerned, it's pretty important to get things, you want to build momentum. You want to feel like, I know Clay always talks about almost like you're a concrete ball, like you're a wrecking ball, right? And you're like a big concrete ball. That's kind of what you're doing. Is you imagine if you're a big concrete ball here and you're trying to rotate that, well, you're not going to be able to rotate it very fast. Your hips aren't going to move that quickly. My arm's going to move a lot more quickly than my hips are. But what your hips are going to do is they're going to create momentum. So if you imagine if you're a big wrecking ball, concrete ball, and you're turning that ball, it's gonna continue to rotate, right? It's gonna create momentum, and that's what you're really doing with your lower body. So this is a great drill to be able to create that momentum and create that speed. So highly recommend this drill. You can also just search the word downswing. Again, you're looking at best tip to start the downswing in the title. And if you find a video that is going to be, I know I want to come back to this video. This is here and it said bookmark added. All right, cool. So now I can click that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my home page. I just click the little house icon. That's going to take me to my home page where we just were. And now you look here, my favorites. I got my list of my favorites here. Now it's got that video on there, and I can just go to how the favorites worked. That's part of the reason why I like using this software, because it allows me to show you guys and gals some things that maybe you're not familiar with what the website does, so you can get a lot more out of it. All right, so Ross R says, Q, when I hit poor shots, I try to hit the ball with my hands and arms rather than beginning my lower body. Any drills you suggest to help? Ross, that drill that it's good timing on your question there. That drill that I just had on there, the downswing, how to start the downswing, or the how to correct the downswing or something like that. That's the one you want to go to. So go to that drill that I was just talking about. That's going to be a great one for you to work on. So Barry B says, what are the top 3 speed monitors you recommend considering cost? Number 1 is going to be PRGR. They're not very good. I don't like the new ones. They're off, I think. At least in my testing, they have been. So PRGR would be number 1. Number 2 would be a Swing Caddy 2. If you can find one, you might be able to find an old one or use one on eBay. But don't get the 2 Plus. That's the newer one, or the 300. I mean, you can, but they didn't work very well in our testing. And then just a Swing Speed Radar, it's called. That's the other one I'd recommend. Swing Speed Radar. That one's about $100. So your PRGR is going to be $195-ish, around $200. It's the best device that we've tested. It measures club head speed, ball speed very accurately, and gives you a estimated distance, which if you hit a well-struck shot and you hit a normal golf ball, it gives very accurate readings. Keep in mind, if you're hitting range golf balls, there's no launch monitors that's going to give you accurate readings. None. Not even TrackMan is going to give you accurate readings. They're all going to give you, it's not going to be, you may see the ball go 150 yards on the range, but the TrackMan or whatever might tell you that it went 170 or 130. It's just, the golf balls are just junk and they're unpredictable, so you can't really base it on that. So anyway, but yeah, so it's going to give you an estimated distance. You can also hit balls, or excuse me, you can also swing, and it will pick up your speed if you're not hitting a golf ball. So that's also a nice part of it. The Swing Caddy 2, the older model, the Swing Caddy 2, the SC200, not the Plus, it's going to be about $350. You might be able to find it used for cheap. I don't know, check on eBay or something like that. It's a great device. The only issue with it is that it gives you it will kind of make up your club head speed. If it doesn't catch it, it will never give you an error. So it almost always gets the ball speed. So sometimes if it gets the ball speed and you and it doesn't get the club head speed, it'll just make up a club head speed, which is I'm not a big fan of. But when it does get it, it's very accurate. The estimated distance are very accurate on well-struck shots, just like the PRGR. The other problem with it is that it gives you can't swing. You have to hit a golf ball. You can't just swing at nothing. You have to hit a golf ball. So that's the other downside of it. And it's more expensive. But it's a more accurate device. The swing speed set up, it's kind of finicky in the way that you set it up. If you have it set up like 2-inch difference, it can make a 5 mile per hour difference in your club head speed and what it gathers. So you just got to make sure that it's set up the same way every single time to get accurate numbers with it. But the cool part about it is that it's cheap. It's a little over $100, and it also can read your swing without a ball. So you kind of got to look at the downside to that one is it's just a pain in the neck to set up correctly all the time. Really, once you get it down, it really works great. But yeah, those are the ones I would recommend. PRGR is, I think, the best of all worlds, really. So Gary G says, how important is it to keep the triangles, the arms during the swing, especially at impact? Impact is the only place it matters. So your arm is going to fold up as you bring the club up to the top, and then through contact, your arms are going to be getting closer together, right? So at contact, this is the only place where it matters to have that solid connected kind of feeling. That's it. That's the only place it matters. All right. So James N says, at address, seems the grooves of an iron are mostly parallel to the ground, but I'd have to stand awkwardly upright to get the grooves of my driver parallel. Should the driver grooves be parallel? If not, why can the driver grooves be not parallel if the iron grooves should be parallel? That's a good question. I don't have to go out a little bit. So you're swinging it faster, right? It's coming through there. So that's basically why, is because when you swing it, it actually kind of flattens out and becomes more parallel as you're coming through contact. Who are my teaching mentors? Well, Clay is one of them for sure. Robin for sure, definitely. I'd say as far as some more, I really like Adam Young. Trying to think. Now you put me on the spot. Teaching me. I gotta look at whose books I have. So yeah, I'd say for the most part, Clay, Adam Young, Robin for sure. Who else do I like? I like a lot of. I can't say that I have certain people that I really gravitate toward necessarily, but there's just there's a lot of instructors out there that are great instructors that teach the right way. And there's just so many, I guess. I try to take a little bit from everybody for the most part. Robert H says Clay's and Pro's right hips do not shift at all to the right in the backswing. Their hips turn, of course. So we should be rotating in the backswing without moving to the right at all. Not like throwing a ball. Yeah, it is. I mean, you're not going to be like that, right? But even when you're throwing a ball, if you watch a pitcher, they're usually not going like that. They're usually going like that. They're usually not leaning away from it because that's just going to be taking momentum away. So really, and what you got to keep in mind as well is that when you're shifting, my hips are narrower this way than they are this way. So when you're looking from this point of view, when I'm turning my hips, right? If I'm just turning my hips and not shifting my weight at all, you can see, well, actually, let's do this. I'll put this on the wall here. There we go. And then I'll move closer to it so you can kind of see. So if my backside or my hip is basically on that and I just rotate, see how I'm moving away from it? All right. So if I'm rotating that way, my hips are getting narrower. I'm not actually moving away from it. My hips are just getting narrower, right? So what you see with tour players is that they move like that. They're shifting their weight, but they're also rotating their hips. So they're kind of moving in that. They're still shifting. They're just not. They're not doing this, right? But they're rotating kind of off that. So it's almost like there's a wall right here, and they're rotating into it. So they're still shifting their weight. It's just it doesn't look like it because their hips are rotating, and when their hips rotate, they get narrower, and it just. Some tour players you'll see they will come off of it a little bit, but it's mostly at the top of the swing is when that's happening. So Joe D says, is there a limit on how far back you should bring the club? It's different for everybody. Some people can turn their shoulders 130 degrees, and some people can only turn their shoulders about 90 degrees. So yeah, there's definitely a limit. You also want to be able to stay in your posture, right? So I can keep on bringing this club back if I keep on going like that, right? If I move my feet. So we want to turn our hips and turn our shoulders and remain in our posture. We don't want to go like that. Like I can keep going back if I want to. It's just that's just not going to be in a good position to be in. So yeah, there's definitely a limit. You go as back as far as you can go, where you're still able to keep your spine tilt, right? Remain in your posture as you're going up and have good control of it. You may be able to go further than that, but then you don't have control from there. So basically, some people can even go further, but they don't really get much speed from going further. So you have to find that happy medium that works best for you. All right, so we're getting, there's a lot of, so I'll try to answer these as quickly as I can here. We're out of time here. So David S says, hey, Q, I have a question about the flat spot with an iron. If the flat spot should start 3 inches behind the ball and then 3 inches in front of the ball, the divot starts after the ball. And I guess I'm just having a tough time visualizing why there's a divot at all if the club is brushing the grass for 5 or 6 inches. Is this something you can explain in detail? So basically, you need to be hitting the ball first and then the ground. So and also keep in mind that it is a flat spot. There's still an arc. It's not completely flat. I mean, it's not as flat as a table, right? It's still going to be it's still arcing in there. It's flatter than other parts of the swing. So as you're coming down, it comes down, it kind of flattens out a little bit. It's still in an arc, but it's contact. Typically that low point of the swing, meaning where this club comes down, reaches a low point, and then comes back up, that's going to be happening ahead of the golf ball, around 4 inches for your best players. So they're hitting ball first, then the ground, then it's coming into the ground. You're shaving that top layer of turf. That 4 inches ahead of the golf ball is going to be about the middle of that divot, and then it's going to come back up again. So, and the reason why you're not just brushing the turf. If you have a flat spot, you can just brush the turf, but you're going to hit a lot of balls thin. If that ball is not sitting up on the grass like it's up on a tee, then you're just going to hit the ball thin. So if you imagine, let's say I'm on a tightly mown fairway, that ball is not sitting up at all. Look where the contact point is on the face. It's like the second groove. Whereas if I'm hitting down on it and I have some forward shaft lean, now look where that contact point is. It's quite a bit higher on the face. It's like the 4th groove up. That's going to be a lot more solid shot. And that's where the tour players are playing it. They're hitting that somewhere between the 3rd and 4th groove, and they're hitting it a lot better from there. All right, so a couple more questions here. Said I am limited to just chipping with a real ball during the current situation. What would your rather top few drills videos focus on if I'm hitting chips off of a decent quality mat? Any specific tips using variability training for chipping? Steven, I'd recommend going to the Chipping Mastery course on the website and working through those drills. Let me show you where you can find that. Chipping Mastery. If you go to the home page here, if you scroll down, you'll see all the courses on the website and Chipping Mastery. Click on that, work through those drills. Those are all the drills that you want to work on for chipping. Those are all the best drills we got. All right. And then Charlie G says, can you discuss proper hand path in through swing? I mean, you're basically just keeping your hands as far away from your body as possible. So you're not wanting to pull your arms in as you're coming through. All right. So if you're rotating properly through contact, your hands are going to continue to work up and around your body. That's basically the hand path. I wouldn't make it any more complicated than that. With Parkinson's, I don't think so. I mean, I've given some tips and stuff to people with Parkinson's before, but not any direct lessons to my knowledge. If they had Parkinson's, I didn't know. So James N says, FYI, the video to my parallel grooves questions drop out. I'll check the recording. If it dropped out, it's probably not going to be on the recording. Sorry about that if it dropped out. But basically, what's happening with the driver, when you're swinging through and you're swinging faster with the driver, what happens is this face will twist. If you go look at like slow motion video on YouTube from down the line with the driver, you'll see how this shaft will like deflect like this. I'm not even sure if I can make it bend like that. You see how that's kind of bending like that? That's what's happening with the driver when you're coming through, and it flattens out because the head's so much bigger and the shaft is typically more flexy, and it's also you're also swinging faster, so there's more forces that are making that happen. All right, so thanks everybody for joining me. We'll finish up there for today. We'll be back here tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Until then, have a good rest of the day, and I will talk to you next time.